Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Apalachicola Chattahoochee Flint River Basin Drought and Water webinar for the month of August. My name is Rachel McGuire, and I'm with the Auburn University Water Resources Center located in Auburn, Alabama. If you're new to the webinar, we will have set aside time for comments, questions, and discussion at the end of this webinar. In the meantime, feel free to use the question box on the GoToWebinar tool panel to type your questions, or you can raise your hand by pushing the hand icon on that same tool panel when we get to the Q&A section. Our speakers today will be Sandra Rain, a regional climatologist with the Southeast Regional Climate Center at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. She's filling in for David Zierden with our current drought status, seasonal forecasts, and outlooks. I will be presenting on behalf of Tom Littlepage, Branch Chief of the Alabama Office of Water Resources with the State of Alabama input. We have Paul Inkhorn, a hydrologist with the USGS South Atlantic Water Science Center. He'll be speaking with us about stream flows and groundwater conditions in the ACF region. We also have Cindy Donald of the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers Mobile District giving us our ACF Reservoir Conditions. We have Samantha Lucas with the Apalachicola Bay National Estuarine Research Reserve, who will be speaking with us about salinity levels in the Apalachicola Bay. And last but not least, we have Jeffrey Dober of the National Weather Service Southeast River Forecast Center with some of our streamflow forecasts for the ACF Basin. And with that, I'll turn it over to our first speaker, Sandra Rain, when you're ready, Sandra.
All right, thank you, Rachel. Okay, so looking at temperatures over the past 30 days, they have been near average across much of the Southeast region, with just a few areas showing above or below average. The Roanoke, Virginia area is currently tied for its fourth warmest August so far, and if you'll notice in Florida, although maximum temperatures have been near normal, it's the minimum temperatures that have been running about 3 degrees above normal for the month, making mean temperatures a little bit above average there. Precipitation across the region has been variable, which is typical for summertime due to the daytime thunderstorms and tropical activity. In Florida, we have a tale of two cities, with the Tallahassee area still running about 4 inches below normal for the month of August and almost 7 inches below normal for the season. However, in the Gainesville area, they are about 2 inches above average for the month and about 12 inches above average for the season. So it really just depends on where those thunderstorms set up or the paths of tropical systems. As far as the tropical update, the National Hurricane Center shows the peak of the Atlantic hurricane season around September 10th. So we are in the time of high activity for the tropics. As you can see in the tropical cyclone points of origin image, for the first 2 weeks of September, tropical cyclones can develop just about anywhere in the Atlantic and the Gulf of Mexico. We have seen 8 tropical systems so far this season, and 3 in August: Tropical Storm Fred, Hurricane Grace, and Hurricane Henri. Now, Grace stayed south of the region, and Henri heavily impacted the Northeast. However, Tropical Storm Fred is the one that significantly impacted our region. Tropical Storm Fred made landfall on August 16th in Cape San Blas, Florida. Winds gusted about 50 to 65 miles per hour in the Florida Panhandle, with gusts of over 73 miles per hour reported near the Gulf Coast. Tropical Storm Fred spawned about 29 tornadoes from Georgia to Massachusetts, all within EF0 to EF1 strength. More than 7 inches of rain fell in Panama City, Florida, and widespread flooding was reported in Southport, where just over 9 inches of rain fell. But the most destructive flooding occurred in western North Carolina, where about 10 inches of rain fell near Black Mountain, And I know it might be a little hard to see, but over about 20 inches of rain fell just north of Lake Toxaway. At least 15 bridges were destroyed, and unfortunately, 5 people were killed in Haywood County, North Carolina, due to the flooding. Over the next few days, the National Hurricane Center is watching a few areas of potential development out in the Atlantic and possibly coming into the Gulf of Mexico. This is to be expected since we are in the most active time of the season. So as always, it's a good idea to be prepared. Moving on to the ENSO update, we are under a La Nina watch with neutral conditions favored for the remainder of the summer and La Nina emerging during the August to October timeframe and lasting throughout the winter season. As far as the overall drought monitor, across the western United States, there is still extreme and exceptional drought, and they are dealing with many wildfires and poor air quality in some places. I like to point this out because fires in the western part of the United States have the potential to lead to poor air quality in our region. In the southeast, however, our drought conditions haven't changed very much over the past month. There is still an area of abnormally dry conditions in Virginia and North Carolina, as well as in Puerto Rico and the U.S. Virgin Islands, with a small area of moderate drought up by the Virginia and West Virginia border. The drought outlook for the month has these drought conditions improving, with drought removal likely for our region and no drought development likely in the immediate future. For the next 3 months, from September through November, the Climate Prediction Center shows a probability of warmer than normal temperatures for most of the southeast region, with equal chances of warmer or cooler than normal temperatures over Alabama and Mississippi area. As far as precipitation, it looks like we have equal chances of below average or above average precipitation for the next 3 months over the entire region, depending on where and if tropical systems impact. So just to sum up a few take-home messages, temperatures have been near average across most of the region, and precipitation has been very variable due to the summer thunderstorms and tropical systems. We did have significant impacts from Tropical Storm Fred. There is a La Nina watch in place, with La Nina developing in the August to October timeframe and lasting throughout the winter. Abnormally dry conditions in Virginia and North Carolina, which will hopefully be removed over the next few weeks. And in the next 3 months, it will be likely warm and equal chances of wet or dry conditions. And with that, I will lead it over to the next speaker.
Thank you very much, Sandra. Now I'll present on behalf of Tom Littlepage, the State of Alabama input from the Alabama Office of Water Resources. This is very much the same story as last month. The current U.S. Drought Monitor has no area of dry or drought condition for the entire state of Alabama. The current Alabama drought declaration stands from May 11th of this year, with no drought declaration in any of the 9 regions of Alabama's drought management plan. The Office of Water Resources has an updated website. This is the drought planning and management page, which will include in a summary email. They encourage those in Alabama to report drought impacts through this Drought GIS portal on this page. The drought status for Alabama currently: rainfall and corresponding benefits to those stream flows and groundwater levels have continued to support no U.S. Drought Monitor map drought designations in the state. Additionally, that same drought declaration from May 11th continues to show no drought designations. There are no reported water availability issues. OWR continues to monitor conditions, and the next Monitoring and Impact, or MIG group meeting, is scheduled for today, Tuesday, August 24th, directly following this webinar at 1 p.m. Central, 2 p.m. Eastern. If you need information to join this meeting, please contact me by email. rem@auburn.edu. I'll also put that in the chat. And now I'll turn it over to Paul Ancorn with our stream flows and groundwater conditions.
All right, thank you, Rachel. Good afternoon. So we'll begin as we usually do by looking at current conditions across the southeast. These pixels are our real-time network, and then the flows are color-coded. And as you can see from the image on the right, the map on the right, little has changed really since our last webinar. Flow conditions in Alabama really are ranking in the high to much above normal. And then as we move southeastward through Georgia, we start to become normal with a few stations just above normal. And then South Carolina, predominantly ranking normal with a few stations that are ranking much above. And as we move up through North Carolina into Virginia, you see conditions there are just really in the normal condition. Then more specifically in the ACF Basin, flows right now, or as of yesterday, predominantly running much above normal. There are a few below normal stations indicated by the orange and red, but those are dam releases. So as a whole, the basin's looking pretty good as far as real-time flow shows, obviously from all the rainfall that we've had. So we'll move on to the next slide. And this is the below normal 7-day average stream flow. So this is an indication of hydrologic drought. And you can see pretty much the whole southeast is hydrologically drought free. There's that one basin that is showing up just in the Tallahassee. Our previous speaker mentioned the dry conditions in Tallahassee, and this basin is reacting accordingly. And so there is one small basin showing extreme hydrologic drought there, right on the Florida Panhandle. Okay, next slide. We'll move into these are 28-day average stream flows. So this is a moving average shown by the black line there. And then the mean daily flow ranked accordingly. So this is just an indication of what the previous 28 days have yielded. So Chattahoochee River, Cornelia, and Dahlonega, these are both Lake Lanier inflows. And basically from our last webinar, we've just had an increase in flows. I believe we were ranking above normal during our last webinar. Well, Cornelia has now moved up just into the much above normal. And Dahlonega, right, has crossed into the 95th percentile. So both 28-day average flows are showing much above normal conditions. So that's Lake Lanier inflows. So now these are downstream of Lanier, so Chattahoochee River at Atlanta and Whitesburg. Atlanta is currently ranking in the normal range, and then Whitesburg has flattened out a little bit, but is currently ranking above normal, which is 75th to 90th percentile. Next slide, we'll move further downstream. So now we're at West Point and Columbus, and both of those stations, the 28-day average flow is ranked above normal. All right, next slide, we'll move over to the Flint River Basin. So the Flint River Griffin had a little uptick in the last week and is currently ranked above normal. And then Carsonville is also ranking in the normal area. So that's normal for this time of year. And Flint River, Albany, and Bainbridge, both currently in the normal condition also. Next slide. This is our most downstream station that we show. This is Apalachicola River at Chattahoochee. And you can see the 28-day average flow there is ranking above normal. All right, so conditions for surface water are good. Now we'll look at groundwater. Again, a little change from our last webinar across the south. Well, this is actually just the Georgia network, the real-time groundwater network. And you can see within the basin, groundwater levels are pretty much from below normal to much above normal, but a majority are showing above normal conditions. We have 2 circled stations that we show. So next slide, we'll take a look at Miller County. And as you can see, little fluctuation there through the past 28 days, but current groundwater elevations are in the normal range or above normal range. And then the next, so we see a little more fluctuation here at Doherty County, but as a whole, the groundwater elevations are above normal, so plenty of groundwater. The last slide will just wrap up. So the real-time stream flow for the ACF Basin currently ranks from much above to much below normal. The below normal 7-day average stream flow indicates the basin to be hydrologically drought-free. 28-day average stream flow for the Chattahoochee, currently in the much above to the normal range. And that's the same story for the Flint River, much above normal to the normal range. And then real-time groundwater levels currently ranked above normal. All right, thank you, Rachel.
Thank you for the update, Paul. Next up is Cindy Donald with our ACF Reservoir Conditions. When you're ready, Cindy.
Good morning, everybody. The first slide shows Lake Lanier and Buford Dam project conditions. The reservoir level is currently above the guide curve, about 1.5 feet above. We are working to evacuate that water from the flood pool since it is hurricane season, and we have to be prepared. So the downstream areas will be seeing quite a bit of flow from the dam over the next several days. The next slide is West Point, and West Point is currently slightly below guide curve. Inflows into the project are slightly above normal. We expect to continue to be right at guide curve or slightly above over the next several weeks. The next slide is Walter F. George Dam, and it is currently below guide curve, about 1.5 feet, and inflows are actually above normal. So we expect the pool reservoir level to be right at guide curve over the next several weeks. The next slide, Jim Woodruff Dam, is the elevation of the reservoir is right at 77.5, which is in our operating level, is in the middle of our operating level. Our releases from Jim Woodruff right now are about 30,000 CFS, and we are continuing to help the upper projects evacuate that flood water that was caused from Tropical Storm Fred. Next slide is our composite conservation and flood storage chart. We are in zone 1 as far as our storage, and we expect to remain in zone 1 over the next several weeks. Next slide is our summary. Lake Lanier is currently above guide curve, and we are releasing water to bring the reservoir down closer to 1071, which is our summer elevation, over the next several days. So downstream areas may see a little bit more water than normal. All projects are within zone 1, and we are currently meeting all the downstream minimum flow requirements. The ACF system conservation storage is in zone 1 and is forecasted to remain in zone 1 for the next few weeks.
Thank you for the update, Cindy.
All right, thank you.
Next up is Samantha Lucas with Apalachicola Bay daily average salinity levels. When you're ready, Samantha.
All right, thank you, Rachel, and hi, everyone. This month, we have an update from where we left off on July 9th through July 29th. We will be going out tomorrow to swap our instruments and download the newest set of water quality data for August. I believe we should have some pretty interesting data from Tropical Storm Fred, so please stay tuned for that next month. But for any new viewers, we're going to go ahead and look at the map. We will be focusing on 3 of our water quality stations within the Apalachicola Bay system. These stations log data all year long at 15-minute intervals. One of our stations is in East Bay, which functions as the nursery area of our system. Then we have Cat Point and Dry Bar at opposite sides of the bay. They're both located on historic oyster bars. All right, we can go to the next slide and check out Cat Point's data now. All right, again, we're going to be focusing on July 9th through July 29th. For Cat Point, there really are no periods of extreme increases or decreases for this period. However, I do want to point out that this month is lower than the previous months of the spring and the summer. There was quite a bit of rain. In July and toward the end of the month, we began to see an increase in river discharge. However, I do want to point out there is an increase around the middle of the month on July 17th. This will be seen a bit more clearly on our East Bay Bottom station in a few slides. But I did a little bit of investigation, and there doesn't seem to be any large storm events or tides that may have caused this. However, we do have winds predominantly from the southeast leading up to this, which potentially brought higher salinity water into the system. And right now, well, not right now, but at the end of July, we're currently trending quite low in the 10th to 24th percentile. So I'll be interested to see what August looks like, especially after all of the rain we got from the tropical storm. All right, next slide. All right, and here we have our dry bar station. This is located westerly in the bay, as you saw on the map. It is near 2 of our passes, so we get some really interesting data. There's usually quite a bit of fluctuations, as you can see. And for the time period we're looking at, there was an increase toward the middle/end of the month, and the highest point occurred on July 23rd. I didn't really think that wind direction had too much of a role in this. However, I did find out that there was a full moon on July 23rd, which will bring those more extreme tides in, bringing in higher salinity waters from our passes. So I believe that is what caused that increase on that date. And then this area is also really influenced from like rain and river discharge as the water flows west to the system. So this is our lowest station rate as of, not right now, but as of July, the end of July, July 29th. It's in the lowest to the 10th percentile. And as I mentioned for Cat Point, I'd love to see what this is going to look like once we download the data tomorrow. All right, we can go ahead and move on to East Bay Bottom. All right, and for East Bay Bottom, we do see that large increase on July 17th. As I mentioned, I believe that is because of the winds. The way the direction was blowing was bringing in that higher salinity water. And then this station is even more influenced by rainwater and river discharge due to its proximity to the rivers. It's pretty high up in there in East Bay. So as we increase our river discharge, I'll be interested to see if the data stays low or increases through August. I'm not expecting it to be too high, but we will have to see next month. And we can go ahead on to the next slide. All right, so all in all, July was a pretty wet month. For the whole month of July, this area experienced rainfall for 22 days out of the month. The river discharge was relatively constant until the end of the month, and then I began to see some increases. And as I pointed out, all of our stations, the current salinity levels as of the end of July are rather low. So we'll be interested to see if this trend continues into August, especially given the rain that we've had from the tropical storm. All right, and I am ready to go ahead and pass it on to the next speaker. Thank you so much.
Thank you for that update, Sam. Next up is Jeff Dober with our Streamflow Forecast. When you're ready, Jeff.
Okay, thank you, Rachel. So as Paul pointed out, stream flows are running high right now across most of the watershed. And Cindy had also pointed out, we've got plenty of water in our reservoir. So where do we go from here? And we're going to take a look at our 10-day potential reservoir or potential flow forecasts here, starting off with Lake Lanier. And the good thing that we're seeing is, in general, some of the meteorological models, and I think Sandra pointed this out, look a little bit drier, less organized precipitation, not as widespread, more typical of late summer, early fall time period. So that's a good thing, and that allows a lot of the rivers to recess out, and that's what we're seeing here in our 10-day potential forecast that use those meteorological models, rainfall forecast to drive these hydrologic models. So starting off with Lake Lanier here, you see continued discharges, but what really gets pointed out here is no significant inflow events, other than you do see the variability. The orange there is the most likely inflows, and then the light blue line there, that is the 5% chance. So more variability, what you would expect as we go on into the future, but for the most part, pretty quiet as far as inflows into the project, as far as the forecast. So if we go to the next slide, we'll go down to Whitesburg, and we see more of the same. This is basically whatever they're going to release from Lanier will probably be the main portion of the volume down the middle Chattahoochee. So nothing, as you can see there, into early September, nothing significant. And then as we move over into the Flint River here on the next slide, we'll go to the Flint River near Lovejoy. And again, the same signal here, no large scale inflow events, but a little bit of variability out there beyond day 5. And again, more or less just expecting scattered showers and thunderstorms over the next 10 days. Again, next slide, we'll go down the Flint, and again, the Flint River near Albany, very similar, no significant events. The flows remain pretty steady, if not, or more or less recess with the drier weather. And then all the way down to the Apalachicola here. And we see right now this is the water from Fred draining out more or less, currently above the 14-foot mark here yesterday, and in what we call a high water stage or action level. But for the most part, what you're seeing here and what is forecast is that will continue to fall out as the Corps of Engineers plans for discharges also plan to fall out as their inflows drop off as well. So for the most part, 10 days looks pretty quiet, no significant rainfall chances. So this is pretty typical of this time of year. We're in week 34, and that's a really sort of a quiet time, but that can change. As Sandra pointed out, we're going into the prime hurricane season. If we go into the next slide, over the next few weeks, typically our tropical tropical activity picks up. And on the graphic she was showing, again, this is also true for the ACF. Here's your September ACF tropical storms from 1970 to 2021. And you can see many of them coming out of the far reaches of the Atlantic. But September is the most active month there. As you see in the table, 14 storms since 1970 to have affected the ACF. So that's the big variable as we move forward into the next month here. If we go to the next slide, but for the most part, as potential rainfall falls off, we think we'll see those stream flows fall back into the normal range for September. And this will also trend into the fall, again, as long as we don't have a large scale tropical system. So near normal for September across the whole entire ACF. And then as we go into September, October, November, showing the next slide, we see for the most part the ESP pie charts showing the highest probabilities of near normal, and then above normal being the second highest chances, and the lowest chances about 1 in 4, 1 in 5 chance on most of our river points of having below normal. So looks like near normal through the fall into really almost late fall right now for the ACF based on everything we're looking at. So in summary, we're not expecting any flooding in the next 10 days. Most of the stream flows should continue to fall out. The 1 month stream flow is for near normal, but the big variable always in September is tropical activity. And then 3 months out, we're going to continue to go with the trend near normal from September, October, and November. For more information on our other forecasts, you can follow the 10-day guidance forecast there at the MMEFS website or our official river and flow forecast at that site right there. And that's all I had, Rachel. So we'll pass it back to you.
Thanks for the update, Jeff. Before we wrap up with any questions or discussion, I have one special point to bring up to everyone. We have new dates for the ACF Drought Dashboard Interactive Review webinars. So these are follow-up webinars, or excuse me, follow-up workshops from the early spring to late spring 2020 workshops that we had one in East Point, and then we had several that had to go virtual after COVID got on the scene. These new dates, October 8th and October 22nd, are permanent. These two webinars will be 2 hours from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. Eastern. If you have questions, we'd like you to contact Kristen Rouse, and that is her email address listed. I'm also going to put the workshop registration link in the chat. And this will also be in the follow-up email. I believe, have Kristen with us. So if anyone has any questions now, we can also see if she can answer those for us. But once again, this is in follow-up on the ACF Drought Dashboard that we've been working on for quite a while now, a follow-up to those spring 2020 listening sessions that we had. Now I'll open up for any questions or discussion. You can either unmute yourself or type in a question in the tool panel. And Kristen is here. I don't see any questions coming in, so I will wrap it up for everybody. Thank you once again to our speakers, Sandra Rain, Pauline Korn, Cindy Donald, Sam Lucas, and Jeff Dober. We have our next webinar for September on Tuesday, September 28th, same time, 1 p.m. Eastern, 12 p.m. Central. You'll receive a video recording of this webinar and a follow-up email, and it will also be posted online on NIDIS's YouTube channel. Thank you for being here and have a great rest of your day.